Welcome to Dannycast. Today is going to be a bit different because we need to switch from Spanish to English because today is a very special day. The first time I'm going to interview someone from a different country that not from Latin America, from Australia. She has a very long experience in shipping. She's from Australia, from Brisbane actually, and living in Panama for almost 10 years, 9 years. And I would like to thank you very much and to welcome Miss Hayley Nelms.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming, for your time to Dannycast.
Thank you for the invitation.
Welcome. Let's try to do that. I'm going to put my English skills on practice today. Yeah, but I believe we're going to have a great, I'm sure that we're going to have a great interview. And yes, I know that you are a director for one of the biggest shipping companies in the world. I don't know if we can say the name. Well, it's a Danish company, which I work for as well. And I want to know a little bit about your career. I know that you are a director. You have more than 20 years of experience in shipping, mostly in shipping. But how was everything in Australia? You have had a beginning, probably not in the shipping. And how was everything in Australia? The beginning of your career?
Yeah, so the start of my career when I finished university, I went to work at a very small company. It was only 15, 20 people. And I went purely for experience and see how it went from there. And I was doing administration, accounts payable. It was a small family company, so you were doing a bit of everything. And I realized I could do my entire job in 3 days of the month. And one of the things when I was studying in university, we went to the port and we got to see the operation, and I realized that I really wanted to get into that. And so I decided, I need to move. And I applied for a role in a multinational. And I really didn't think I was going to get the role because I was only 4 or 5 months out of university.
No experience.
No real experience, right? I got the job and I was super excited. And I was like, okay, what have I got myself into?
And what have you studied in Australia, the university?
I studied a Bachelor of Business in International Business and Management.
Okay.
So
nothing related to shipping, to maritime?
No.
Yeah, but actually, international business is what maritime is.
It's trade, but it wasn't really maritime.
Focused on that one.
So
and Brisbane is seaside, right?
Yes, it's seaside, so I had a port. It's not the largest in Australia, but it's still quite busy. So it was when I went there and I got to see the operation. For me, it was quite exciting.
And the big companies were there already?
They were there already. So
calling Brisbane port. And then after, you were working for this small company, then you applied for a new position. This was already in the company you are working for now?
Yes. Well, it was originally another company, and then I was there for a year and a half until we got bought out by the company that I work for now. So I went through quite a big change at the start of my career. So when it was first announced, I had no idea what was going to happen. At that point in your career, you don't understand, right? So I was quite young going through a big change. So it was a good learning experience, that's for sure.
You were too young. And what was your dream when you were young? You had like this kind of dream that I want to work for a worldwide company, multinational, or I want to be something different. I don't know.
My dream was that I wanted to be a flight attendant.
Ah, really?
But I didn't want to serve tea or coffee or look after it. I just wanted to travel the world, and for me that was.
You were from already thinking about.
I was thinking about how do I get around. So for me, I thought, I want to be a flight attendant so I can travel the world for free. And then I learned what it actually entails, and I decided, no, I need to go for something similar. But I think that's where the international concept I stuck with, right? So then it was finding something else to do, another career that met that.
Similar to fly. Yeah,
yes.
of course, the way is larger, is longer
Yes.
than a flight attendant. You
Exactly.
can know all the world in like 1 year.
Exactly.
Yeah, so then you applied for this company, you got the job, right?
Yes.
It was your first job in the shipping company. How long have you worked for this company over there?
I was in Australia for 9 years.
9 years working
Yes.
in shipping.
In shipping, yes. So
Then when you were in Australia, you had the opportunity to travel to some other places, some other countries?
yes. So I got to work in a few big projects where I got to travel to different places. So I went to Denmark, I went to China, I went to Singapore. I got quite a bit of opportunity to see the world. So it opened my eyes that there was more to the world than just Australia. So it was very
Australia
interesting.
is a very nice place. I've never been to Australia, but it's
Yes.
like a dream to go to Australia because we are on the other side of the world. And it's really far.
Yeah.
That it's not that cheap to go to
Yeah.
Australia. I need to take a big vacation,
Yes.
many days of vacation. I know that you already thought about moving to some other countries, and how was that? I know that after Australia you went to Philippines, right?
Yes.
9 years in Australia, then that was not enough. So you wanted to not only travel because it was your dream, but you wanted to move. And I know that the company you work for, we work for, they give the opportunity for you to
Yes.
move and
Yes.
everything.
So I was at the point that I needed to take a decision in my career. So I had to either move companies I work for or move locations.
Okay.
And that was the two choices I had. And I decided if I was going to move locations, I'm going to move somewhere different. Moving within Australia, for me, was nice, but it's still Australia,
It's still
right?
Australia. Okay.
So that's where I got an opportunity to work in the Philippines. I had never been there before.
Never been to Philippines.
Never
I
been
just
there.
I got the opportunity. And I'm
I
gonna move.
got the opportunity and I was going to
Oh
move.
wow!
But my dad had lived there in the past. So I kind of knew about it, but and I
they
trusted
are
that if
really good people, right?
yes. So I figured if he can live there and everything, then I can do it as well. So yeah, I decided to take the job and move.
But alone, then you had two opportunities. Okay, you can move to Australia in another
Yes.
place, in another, probably far from your
In
place.
Sydney, yes.
In Sydney,
Yes,
it must be very very nice place, right?
it's a very nice place.
But you've been there many times,
Yeah.
and it was not the same that moving to another country. But Philippines is different from Australia. Australia is like first world we go, and
Yes, it's a very different world, and I think it was very. I mean, work-wise, personally-wise, it was very different, right? So the way of living is different. Also, the environment I was working in was very
Culture,
different. Cultural,
everything.
exactly. And I was working at nighttime. So I was no longer working 9 to 5. So my whole
nighttime.
routine...
How nighttime? Nighttime?
So I was working in our offshore center that serves different parts of the world.
Offshore, you mean the offshores? The
yes,
offshores.
exactly. So the 24/7 operation.
Ah, wow.
So I was working for teams that were working for Europe and Latin America. So-
Different. Wow, different time zone.
Exactly. So I would start, one day I could start at midday. The next day I could start at 3 p.m. The next day I would start at, 6 p.m. So it was,
Wow.
it was very different.
Totally different.
Right? Exactly.
But
so my whole life changed.
The time zone for Philippines and Australia are not too
It's
different, right?
2 hours difference.
2 hours difference.
Yeah.
But when you move it to Philippines, you needed to work like for America.
For Americas, yeah. Europe or
Wow.
Americas. So
Because they are probably the hub of this kind of
yes,
work.
exactly. So all of the offshore transactional work
Everything
was
is-
migrated there. That was during the time of everything was migrated to a back office.
Wow.
So
And back in Australia, 9 years, you were, of course, when you started, you were a beginner. You had no like job level, still like
Yes.
beginner.
Very junior.
Yeah, very junior. And how was in Australia? You were already, when you left Australia, you were already a leader?
Yes.
You had
Yes.
you had like teams?
Yes. So I was actually became a leader for the first time when I was 22.
Wow. That is crazy.
I was very young.
Wow.
So I had worked for a year and a half, and then an opportunity came to become a team leader, and someone believed in me, and yeah.
Wow.
And so I was working my team. Most of them were older than me. So it was a different learning experience, right?
Wow, 22, but how old were you when you got to...
When I left Australia, I was 29. So...
But with 22, you were already a leader. That's crazy.
Yes.
And how many years you were in the company already?
A year and a half.
you got the opportunity. Wow, that is crazy.
Yes.
How is that? You became a leader with 22 years old. How is that? You had a team behind you, right?
Yes, I had a team. It was 22 people.
Wow, the first position.
It was, yes. And it was, I mean, at the time you think I'm doing good because I got promoted, right? And I'm so fantastic and all
I
of
didn't
this.
know that you were going to...
And then you realize what you got into, and then you realize how difficult it actually is.
Lead with people. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mostly... Here we had too many leaders. I believe most of the guests here they are actually leaders, and it's really hard to lead with people, particularly when you are too young.
Yes, it was a big learning experience because at 22 you're still learning yourself.
Of course,
right?
1.5 in the company, 1.5 year in the company.
So and basically 1.5 years working experience. So you really don't understand the right way to do things. So when you look back on it, then you're like, I really sucked. But at the time, you don't realize, right? You go through training, you try to apply the training in real life. You learn from doing things the wrong way. So you have to overcome it the hard way.
You probably had some mentors as well at that time.
Yeah, I think I had some good leaders, some good coaches and mentors to help me. And I had a lot of good opportunities as well to learn different parts. So I moved between different teams just to learn different parts of the organization. So then I was able to broaden my network a little bit and find new people to work with and learn from, because when you work for the same person for a long time, you tend to pick that up, right? So when you're young, you need to absorb as much as you can from other people. So
wow. So you spent almost the whole part in Australia as a leader.
Yes.
1.5 only before, then you became a leader. 9 years in Australia, so you got a really good experience. Then you received the opportunity to move to another country, actually the same country or another country.
Yes.
And the position in this country in Philippines was better than in Sydney?
It was a promotion.
Yeah. Okay.
So it was a promotion in the Philippines or the same role in Sydney. So that's when I decided, okay, it's time in my life to do something different. And I decided it's not every day someone gives you a promotion.
No,
right? So
but in another country, how was that? You never been to Philippines. Your father was there. Your father also works with shipping, or
no, he
work with.
He works in construction.
Okay, but from different countries.
Yes, exactly. So I think I picked up the travel thing from him because he used to travel a lot for work.
But close to Australia or
around Asia, which is close to Australia.
It's close to Australia, different than
the
Panama.
Rest of the world, no, but yes. So my dream was to, at some point, to move overseas. So that's why for me it was. I mean, it's a difficult decision to make, to pick up your life and move, but it was not that difficult.
Any country in particular you wanted to move before?
I mean, for me, Philippines was okay because I knew that there would be a lot of work opportunities.
Okay.
But anywhere in Asia, I would love to live.
China,
that was my goal. Maybe not China. Maybe that's too far. But
China is far from Australia. I don't know because I'm a bit lost in the.
Yeah, so China from Australia is about 12 hours.
But
I guess culturally it's very different.
It's very different.
But the rest, Southeast Asia, so Singapore, Philippines,
Thailand,
must be cool. Yeah,
Thailand, Muay Thai.
Yeah, there's also a lot of Australians who travel there, right? And I had been there a lot.
Indonesia.
Yeah, Indonesia as well.
You have ever been to Indonesia?
Yes.
Yeah, it must be cool, this place.
Yes.
I want to know this place someday in my life. Then you received the opportunity. How was that? Okay, I'm gonna move. You had this container to.
Yes.
But you were alone. You were alone. How was that? You took all your stuff.
I took all my stuff to the Philippines. And then, I mean, in the Philippines, I didn't have any family there. I knew some people from work. But I didn't have any close friends, right?
Only through Teams and everything will work.
Exactly. So I basically had to start my life from zero, right? And that's when I learned I have to make friends. I have to go out.
You need to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I need to go and explore and put myself in different opportunities and experiences. And yes.
And Philippines, of course, Australia is a very cool place. Philippines must be very cool as well.
Yes.
And how was when you arrived over there? Because you never been there before, and you just arrived for living.
Yes.
I don't know how many years you spent over there, because probably some years.
Yeah, 3.5.
3.5 is a long time you have spent in Philippines. Probably you have made good friends over there. And how was arriving there in Philippines? Manila? Probably Manila.
Yes.
And wow, this is the place that I'm gonna live. I don't know how long for.
It was very different, but it was not too different than what I expected. So I kind of knew what I was getting myself into. But it was just when you're in that scenario, it's quite different, right? So I had to, even when you go to the supermarket, you stand there and you don't know the brands. So it's like, I don't know what cheese to buy.
They don't have the same brands in Australia.
No.
Totally different.
Totally different. And then work-wise, it was interesting because when I first got there, everybody in the Philippines speaks English. But
yes, that's true, because they're like crew members of most of the companies in the world.
Yes.
They work mostly in the seaside.
They're very like service oriented. But but they speak with a very American accent.
Really?
And when I moved there with my very Australian accent, I didn't realize I had a very Australian accent. And
it's different.
It was very different. And I think for the first 3 months, I was thinking, this is not going to work because they don't understand me.
They don't understand anything.
They don't understand
They didn't understand anything.
And for 3 months, I thought it was all them. And then I realized one day it's not them. It's actually me. It was me. I had to stop using very Australian words and I had to learn how to speak properly.
Yeah, because in Australia, the English you speak is totally different from United Kingdom, US. US is different.
Yeah, different accent, different
it's hard to
words,
understand.
different slang. Exactly.
But I didn't know that the Filipinos, they speak like American English.
They have a very American, strong American influence.
Very nice place. I remember that because I used to work as a boarding agent in Brazil, and too many Filipinos with our crew members.
Yes,
the company we work for, they mostly Filipinos.
Yes.
They are very friendly, very good people. But the English is like, very nice place, my friend, my friend. And you didn't. And at the beginning, it was hard for you, but you both speak English.
Yeah, I just realized that I had to change my accent, the way I spoke. So I realized the problem is not them, it's It's actually
you
me.
are in
It's me.
their country. You need to speak like them.
Exactly. So, and I was working with teams from different parts of the world as well. So,
Not only from Philippines over there.
Yeah. So
Many-
I was working with the teams in Europe, in Latin America. So all of the accents were very different. And it was the first time, because when you're in Australia, you deal with Australians. Like, it's very Australian.
Your
You're
accent.
almost at the end. You're almost at the end of the world, right? And then when I moved there, I realized there's other
there's
ways
other
of working.
kinds of English you can speak, and people
Yes.
from all over the world,
Yes.
Latino probably.
Yes, quite a few. So it was different cultures. So all of my group of friends was from different parts of the world.
And when you moved to Philippines,
Mm-hmm.
you had a better position than in Australia,
Yes.
a leader. How many people you had?
When I moved to the Philippines, I was in charge of 280 people.
Wow.
Yes.
And how old were you at that time?
I was 29.
Wow. Too young.
Yes.
A lot of responsibility.
Yes. Quite a bit.
Wow. And working different time
Different time zones. So I was responsible for 7 different country clusters of the world. So different groups of countries.
Wow.
So it was quite interesting because then you got to see the rest of the world. So
During the night time in Philippines.
Exactly. That was the hard part.
So 3 years and a half, right?
Yes.
All these years you were in the same position over there?
Yes. Same position. I mean, we changed and moved some teams around.
And the time zone the same?
Still the same. When I was getting towards the end, I was working with teams in Asia Pacific. So I started to work in the morning. And that's when I realized I'm not a morning person. When I had to shift from waking up in the afternoon to now waking up early to go to the office at 9 o'clock in the morning again.
No, you were not using it anymore.
Yeah. I changed. I adapted.
Wow. And 3 years and a half. Probably you had a lot of stories to tell about Philippines, because I would like to know something about Philippines. I love the Filipinos. And because I used to work with them when I was in Brazil. And they are so cool. They must come from a cool country.
It's a very diverse country. I mean, Manila has a huge population. Like the population of Australia fits in the city. So it was also for me going from living in a city of 2-3 million people to a city of like 20-something million.
20 million
people in the city.
São Paulo is something like that, right? In Brazil.
It's the same chaos.
That's crazy. Chaos.
But then all of the islands and all the other places, it is the best beaches in the world.
Really?
Yeah.
Like Caribe? The color of the water and everything.
Yes,
But Australia is almost the same.
Australia is different. Australia is wide open, right? Whereas the beaches in the Philippines, it's a lot of islands. So it's a lot of it's a lot more protected. So
probably, protected.
I mean, now it's very touristic. There's a lot of, with influencers, right? There's a lot of people who travel there for influencing videos and things like that. But when I was there, I used to travel every 3 or 4 weeks. I would go for the weekend to a different beach or island. It was super cheap. And I really enjoyed it.
Because in Australia, you use dollars.
Yeah,
Australian dollars.
Yes.
It's cheaper than the US dollars, a little bit.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
And then in Philippines?
They use pesos, Filipino pesos.
Filipino pesos?
Yes.
They're like Latinos,
yeah,
pesos.
Yeah, exactly.
In most of the countries here we use pesos. pesos, but then probably the position could give you good opportunities to know the country, but you were working during the night.
Yes.
How could you know the places? Because you were working during the night. I don't know if Filipinas and Manila is a 24-hour city.
It is pretty much a 24-hour city because you have so many different call centers there.
Okay.
And most of it is oriented towards the US market. That's why the accent is very American. You also have people who speak English, speak Portuguese, because then they have
Even
the opportunity.
Portuguese?
Yes.
The Filipino?
Yeah, they will learn Portuguese because then they have the opportunity to learn more.
I can't believe that. Filipinos speaking Portuguese.
Some people will do it so
like
they
in China.
can
China, there is a
money.
place in China that they speak Portuguese.
No,
I don't know, not nowadays, but used to speak Portuguese before.
Not on the streets, but some people they will put themselves through training to learn different languages.
And
but so it's 24 hours. So I mean, you could finish work at 11 p.m. at night, and then you could go and have dinner somewhere in a restaurant. You could go and have some drinks. This could be on a Tuesday night, right? And then and then you go home, you go to sleep, you wake up the next day at midday, and you start your day again. It's a 24-hour city. So
you need to get used to that, because in Panama it's totally different. In Panama, it's all the other countries.
Exactly.
You work it. And
yes.
Wow, how I want to know a bit of things, a little things about Filipinos. How is the food over there?
Oh, it's very bad for you. Everything is very oily and heavy. But I mean, it's basic. It's rice with meat in a sauce, but very, very heavy.
Wow.
Yes.
But you were used to cook, or you only?
I would normally buy from different places.
Okay.
Yeah. But it was like $1 to buy a meal. Super cheap.
So cool. Maybe one day I'm gonna go to Philippines to know, because
on the way to Australia.
Yeah, we need to go to Australia and then Philippines. Okay, then in Philippines you spent 3.5 years.
Yes.
Then which was the next country you've moved? The opportunity because you're still working for the same company.
Yes. So I had the opportunity to move to Panama. The difference is that I had been to Panama before.
You had been here.
I had been here before for business travel. So I knew how it was. But there was an opportunity, and I decided that I wasn't ready to move back to Australia just yet. I wanted to keep exploring the world. I was still young. And then I moved to Panama. So that was 9 years ago, almost 9 years ago.
How was the thing of receiving the opportunity to Panama? You wanted to move, or this opportunity just appeared? Or you applied? Or
my contract was finishing in the Philippines. So I had to decide where to go. And it was just good timing that an opportunity came up in a similar time. So it worked out well.
Then there was any other opportunity to some other country, or you were thinking about moving to another place?
No.
And how was your experience when you came to Panama, but not for living?
Yeah. I mean, Panama is very different when you travel here and when you live here.
Tourism.
Yes.
Which one's the best?
It's small, right? So coming from a big city to a small city.
Too big. 20 million people in Manila.
Exactly. And then when you come to Panama, and
for me, Panama is not a small city.
I saw everything there was in 2 weeks.
Yeah, and you can move from Atlantic Ocean to Pacific Ocean in 2 hours. But you came here before for working, right?
For work, yes.
From Philippines? From Australia?
From Philippines. So I was in a role that I was working with some teams in Panama. So I had a few meetings here before.
So then when you were in Philippines, well, my team or my position is going to finish. It's going to be resumed. What were you thinking at that moment? Because it's a bit, we know that when we have this kind of things that the company changes, you need to because when you have a high position, you need to look for another position. It doesn't mean that there's going to be another position for me easily in another country.
Exactly. But I went to the Philippines on a contract anyway. So I knew at some point that the contract was ending. So it wasn't a surprise. It was just a decision as to whether I wanted to move back to Australia or I wanted to look for something else. So that was the thing that I was deciding at the time. But I felt like it wasn't time to go to Australia just yet. So
still too young, and you still needed to know the world.
Exactly, and I realized that when you work with different countries, there's different ways of doing things.
Yeah.
So I could learn a lot more from being outside than going back to Australia to do something that I was doing before. So I wanted to keep learning and growing. So that was part of my thought process.
And that was your dream when you were a kid.
Exactly.
Knowing the world.
But I didn't dream that I would live in Panama. I never knew I would end up in the
Panama.
You
know, when you, particularly from Australia.
No.
Have you ever heard about Panama when you were in Australia?
You only hear about Panama Canal. That is it.
That's the same for me, because when I got the opportunity to come to Panama, I didn't know about Panama.
Yes.
Then I got to YouTube and watching YouTube videos, Brazilians living in Panama and this kind of stuff. And of course, because we work with shipping, we know about Panama Canal. Then you knew about only Panama Canal, but Panama is an amazing place. It's the best place in the world. No. I love Brazil, San Francisco, but Panama is like both places are on my heart, inside my heart. Then you're at New Panama. Mm-hmm. You got the opportunity, and not going back to Australia. You came to Panama.
Yes.
As a leader as well.
Yes.
Different position, different kind of work.
Yes. Since my first leadership position when I was 22, I've always been in a leadership role.
Wow.
So it was something that I realized that I enjoyed. But when I moved to Panama, I was in a similar function that I was doing before in the commercial world. So it was something that I was similar with. I knew the processes, I knew the way of working. So then it was a matter of understanding a different market, a different culture, different customers. Because
you were used to work with Asia and Australia and this kind of this market.
Yes.
And you know everything about this place.
Yes. Yeah.
Then you came to a new place without. Okay, you had the background, the commercial background.
Yes.
But you didn't know the place, or you.
I knew the basics. So then it was more understanding the details, how things work. So the good thing is that when you it was like I stepped into something I was familiar with, but still something that was a little different. So the familiar was the function, and the different was the location. So
totally different.
Exactly. But
the other side of the world.
But at least the functional knowledge I had. So I knew how to fix things. I just needed to know how to fix it in a different country.
Wow.
That was how I thought about it.
Since 22 years old and in Panama, different country as a leader as well. Spent some years in Philippines. Great experience working during the nighttime in Philippines. But you came to Panama. Panama is totally different, and working during the day. Yes. Normal, you need to wake up early. Normal hours. And you know that in Panama, normally we work with, when we work with East Coast, in Brazil and Argentina, Uruguay, you need to wake up earlier than in Panama time because they are 2 hours ahead of us.
Yeah.
But when you arrived here, which part of the Americas you were working for?
I was working for the Caribbean area. So
the same time zone.
Same time zone.
Okay.
So it was, 1 or 2 hours ahead and 1 hour behind. So it was much more a normal time of working.
But you were not used it. And also when you travel from, I forgot the name of the word, when you travel a different time zone, you need to get used. Jet lag. Also the jet lag, you needed to get used to Panama, and you've been here before, and the culture is totally different from Philippines and Australia.
Yes. But I think it was easier moving from Philippines to Panama, then Australia to Philippines. Because once you get the first move out of the way and you realize you can adjust, then the second one was like, oh, again.
Okay, again, but it's different. The culture is totally different because you were in Asia, in Philippines, and back in Australia.
Yes.
That was totally different.
Yes.
Wow. And the language.
Yes. The language is not easy, that's for sure.
Until now. Yeah, it's very hard for us Brazilians. It's easier to learn how to speak Spanish, of course.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Because there are too many similar words.
Yeah.
But of course, if you don't try to learn, you're never gonna learn.
Yes. But then in Australia, so it's different from the US. In the US, in school, a lot of people learn Spanish, right? Because you have a lot of people who speak Spanish in the country. In Australia, when you go to school, you normally get to choose an Asian language. So for example, I learned Chinese in primary school and then Japanese in high school.
Wow.
So you don't even have an opportunity to learn Spanish or European language, right?
Or Portuguese. No. This is only in Brazil and Portugal.
No. So it's more common because most of your trading partners are either Japan, China, or somewhere around there.
That's new. So in Australia, you have the opportunity to learn Japanese and Chinese in the school.
Yeah. All those
but you don't learn, right?
No, I did.
Really? You know how to speak?
No, not now.
But
not
at
now.
that time, because you need to practice.
Yeah.
Of course, it's like English or Spanish
But I did Japanese for 5 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So then when I came to Panama and I was trying to learn Spanish, my mind was like thinking that I was speaking Japanese.
That's crazy.
And my teacher asked me, why are you speaking so aggressively? I'm like, that's because that's how I know how to speak another language than English.
I was trying to learn how to speak Italian. But I get really confused because I need to speak Spanish at home every day. But I speak Portuguese this is my language, Brazil. And now I need to speak English in the office. Not now, but every time we need to speak English. And now we're going to bring some Americans for the interviews. And we need to put in practice our English that we have learned in Brazil, back in Brazil, and also trying to improve. But when you try to learn another language outside of what we are used to... to work with and every day, you get crazy.
Yeah.
So Spanish, you still...
I can understand.
Okay. Because your husband is from Costa Rica.
He's from Costa Rica, so he speaks Spanish on my behalf.
He's the one who...
If someone calls me in Spanish, I give him the phone.
Hey, talk to my husband because he speaks Spanish.
Exactly. He fixes everything for me.
But what language do you speak at home?
English.
English?
Yeah.
He needs to speak English in his place, yeah? in Panama, not his place, but it's very close to Panama. Okay, going back to your experience in Panama. So you came to Panama.
Yes.
With a leader position. How many people were on your team?
I think my team then was about 35, 40 people. But it was spread across different countries. It was the first time I had a team across 6 different countries.
6 different countries in Latin America?
In Latin America, in the Caribbean area.
Which position was that?
So I was heading customer service.
Customer service, okay. Yes. Then from 200 people to 30.
Yes.
That was that
very
easier or not too easy because it was in Latin America and the language?
It was, the role was a little bit different, right? So it doesn't make it more difficult because you have a bigger team or a smaller team. It depends on what are you trying to do. So that makes it more complex. So it's obviously easier when you have a smaller team, right? Because then you get to know people a little bit better.
But they were in different countries.
They were in different countries, so I had to travel quite a bit to meet them and
knowing different countries, what you wanted before your dream.
Exactly. So I had to learn the different ways different countries work. So it was good. It was a very good experience.
Wow. And 32 and which countries they were here?
So it was Panama, Colombia, Costa Rica, Dominican, Venezuela, Trinidad, and Tobago.
You have had the opportunity to know all these countries. Probably.
Venezuela, no, but the rest, yes.
Venezuela because of the political.
Yes.
So that was your first position. How many years ago was that?
That was 9 years ago.
9 years ago when you just arrived came to Panama. Then after that, I know that your position now is very high, very important, but you had a way before growing in Panama. In Panama, 9 years, right?
Yes. So I got to the point that I decided I needed to make a change in my career. And I had worked in the commercial team for 16 years. Different roles, different countries, different structures.
Okay.
But I realized I really enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong.
Your background is mostly commercial, right?
Commercial, yes.
You know everything about commercial.
Yeah. Because I like to work with people. And then I decided, okay, I need to use the opportunity in Panama. We have a bigger structure. We have more opportunities. And I needed to learn something very different. So I decided I was going to move to operations, which is the opposite.
Did you know anything about operations, or?
I knew quite a bit because I had worked a lot with the operations team that's in Panama before. So I knew how they worked and what they did.
But operations is totally
it's
different.
Very different. I think my first week when I got into the role, I was like, I don't understand.
Normally operations fights against commercial.
So I was in the middle.
Commercial sales and operations. No, you can't do that.
Yes. Now I was. And
my background is always operations, and it's very hard to not to lead, but try to convince commercial.
Yeah. It's a different way of seeing things, and I think operations is very routine, very process, very deadline. And commercial is a lot more, okay, how do you get things done? It's much more fluid, right? There's no end time, whereas for operations, you have a time. There is a deadline.
You have deadline for everything.
It's very expensive. So it's a very different way of working. I think my first month, I was so confused.
In operations.
I didn't understand anything. It was like working for a new company. So same company, just changing the function I worked in. It was completely different. Yes.
And that, how much time have you spent in commercial here when you just arrived in Panama?
I was in, it was 4 years.
4 years? A long time.
Yeah. Yes.
That was commercial.
Yes. So mainly customer service.
Customer service.
Yes.
But this is tough.
It is tough. Yeah, it's not easy.
Because you need to lead with the customer, and the customer, they always complain.
You need to explain all the things that went wrong. And you need to fix all the problems. What
happened with operations? And that's why you thought that you needed to move to operations, because you needed to learn how...
I needed to learn a different part of the business. And that's where I decided operations is very different. Let me try to understand the new way of working. Let me get different experience in different parts of the way that we work and how do we deliver. So for me, I mean, once I finally understood what operations was doing, I love it.
That's so cool.
I love it because you get to see the outcome of what you do.
Yeah.
You get to see there's a lot of big things that you can do. You can really influence some key decisions. So it's super, super cool. It's very dynamic.
Yeah.
No 2 days are ever the same.
And that's really tough, operations, because operations works 24 hours.
Yes.
And have many teams working 24 hours a day.
Yes.
And when you have a background only commercial, when you move to operations, is like a shock. Wow, it's totally.
And everybody looks at you like, oh no, but you're saying that because you came from commercial.
Yeah. She thinks she knows everything, but she doesn't know operations.
Exactly. I didn't know operations, so I had to learn. But it gives you a different perspective, right? And then you can ask questions from different angles, and you think of things a little bit differently.
And of course you become a monster because you know everything. when you know commercial operations, what else you need to learn? I don't know.
There's still a lot. There's
still a lot. Of course,
we're
gonna get to that, but that's something different because normally the ones who work for commercial or market and these kind of things, they don't want to move to operations. Mm-hmm. But the people from operations, they want to move to commercial because operations is really tough.
It's tough, but it's a different. I mean, it's the same kind of issues, but very different.
Yeah.
So when you're in the commercial world, you're talking about an issue for a group of customers, right? Or it's much smaller. Whereas when you're in operations and you have an issue, you have a very, very large issue, right? You have a vessel-sized issue. So,
particularly when we were in COVID.
Exactly. So one mistake is huge.
Can cost everything.
And that's where, from an operational point of view, it's also about decisions, right? So what are the decisions you make and what are the decisions that you don't take? Because everything has a different outcome. And you're always going to disappoint someone. Not everybody is going to like what you do.
That's for sure.
Exactly.
Operations. That's for sure.
So you just have to decide what is the least worst option to choose in that scenario.
Who I'm going to make it unhappy. Like something like that. No, just kidding. But yeah, operations. But okay, you spent 4 years with commercial. The first time you arrived in Panama, then you wanted to move, or you received the opportunity because the company always changes. All the companies.
Yeah, no, I wanted to move. I wanted to move.
You thought that it was your time to move.
Exactly, and it was just the matter of finding the role at the right time. So that's how it happened.
And you wanted to stay in Panama as well.
Exactly. I mean, it was during pandemic and nobody could really move anywhere, and it wasn't the time to move anywhere anyway. But it was also, I knew Latin America, right? So if I'm going to learn something different, then at least I want to have something that I already know. So if I move to do operations, say, in the Middle East, I know nothing about Middle East. I know anything about operations.
It was going to be like a
disaster.
New beginning.
Exactly.
New beginnings, because you needed to learn everything.
Yes. Exactly. So Latin America, I knew. Then I was just understanding operations.
And I know you were Australian.
Yes.
You are living in Panama for many years already. You are very far from your family. How is that? How is that? How does that work for you? Because it's really far. I know probably you are used to go to Australia, but it's different. Like, I'm going to Colombia. 1 hour, 2 hour flight.
You cannot just fly for the weekend, so it's not easy. No, I go back to Australia every year. Normally at Christmas time, I will go to see my family. But I have been out of Australia now, for 13 years. So there's some things I miss. There's some things I'm okay with.
You still have friends over there?
I have some friends there, yes. But I have friends in all different parts of the world, so...
But particularly in Australia, do you have friends from your childhood?
No. So the weird thing is
different, right?
Yeah. When I left Australia and I started to go back and see friends, I realized we didn't have a lot in common anymore.
That's totally different.
Yes.
Even me, I'm from Brazil, but now when I go to Brazil, it has been 2 years that I'm not going to Brazil anymore because my mother passed away. And first time when I went to Brazil, that was so too many friends,
weird.
and you know, and now 6 years later, no, it's totally different.
Yeah.
You have a few friends only.
Yeah, it changes.
But normally not the friends that you when you were young.
Yes.
The friends that you have made later.
Yeah, these are friends that I have made like through work or friends of friends.
Yes.
And because you change, right? And when I left Australia and I would go back and we would be sitting having lunch or something, and I realized
I don't know them.
our lives are completely different.
That's totally different.
Exactly. Like they'll ask, what did you do the other weekend? Oh, I went to Colombia for the weekend. Okay. That's not common in Australia, right? So that's when I realized, okay, my friend group has changed a lot.
Always changes.
So I have friends in all different parts of the world. And it's nice because then it's a different way
of life.
Exactly.
Of life.
So when you travel, you get to see someone, if it's in Miami or somewhere else.
All over the world. I'm going to Italy. No, there is a friend over there.
Yes.
Wow, that's crazy. I'm still not on this.
I don't know any in Italy, but if I could make some, it would be helpful.
But I'm gonna live in Panama forever. And okay, then you were in Panama, but you have spent how many years? 4 years in this position, a commercial position.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have changed to operations.
Operations, yes.
How was that? Which position was that?
I was heading up the cargo team.
Okay.
It was a very good entry point into understanding operations. So you're kind of stepping halfway between the commercial and the operations world. So you get to open your eyes, you get to be involved in things, but you're not the one that has to make those very difficult operational decisions, right? But you have some influence.
But you need to know.
You need to know, but it was a really good way to learn about it.
Okay.
And I learned from getting in things. I mean, for me to read it is like, yeah, okay, but I actually need to be in it. I need to be in the conversation, in those discussions.
You need to learn. And how many people you have had at this time?
It was, my team was both in Panama and the US, and we were about 50 people in total, 55.
Okay. Then that was operations.
Yes.
What else happened after that?
So then we changed structures a little bit, and I got to work specifically with East Coast South America. So Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, and Paraguay. And for me, that was one of the best roles I've had of my career. I loved it. Because you get to work with a very specific trade, very specific market, very specific group of customers and way of working. And it was a team that was both in Panama and Brazil, Argentina and Uruguay,
and Paraguay.
Exactly.
And Paraguay?
No, we didn't.
No team, right?
No one there. But it was really good to learn. And when you really get to see and take the decisions in terms of how the operations works in these countries, it's amazing to see what it takes. So,
and then I know you from that time in the East Coast, but suddenly you have had another opportunity.
Yes.
Totally different.
Yeah, totally different, but a little similar.
But have you had a kind of opportunity of like similar to this one before?
No. So this is the first time, I guess, I've officially stepped into procurement. Right?
Negotiations.
Negotiations. Right. But the thing that someone helped me to realize is that you're doing negotiations all day, every day. Anyway.
Yeah, every day, every time. Yeah.
So it's just how you look at it. And then that's when I started to realize, oh, okay.
I'm going.
This could be interesting for me.
That was like a step ahead, right?
Yes. It was very different because it's for Americas again. So working with...
But now the whole Americas.
Yes. So working with North America as well, which I had some experience with before, but not super detailed, right? So that for me has been very different. But it's the base of operations and also the base of commercial has helped me a lot.
Is very similar to procurement.
It's helped me a lot. So it's, I think, doing it without having that background, I would probably not be saying the same thing.
No, now your background is just to become the owner of the company.
No.
Yeah, I'm going to buy this company because I know everything.
There is still a lot to learn.
And how are the days now in this position, how everything is going with you? And
yeah,
I know that you have a great team and they're so cool, everyone who is...
So, I mean, I only started this role in October last year. So anytime you start a new role, you spend the first couple of months understanding what are we doing, how do things work, what's this new acronym, what's this acronym, how does this process work, systems, everything is very different. And then you have to understand the way that all the negotiations work, and it's completely different. Completely different to what you think. But it's been really, really good, really interesting. And I think when you understand how the operations works, you know how to negotiate for it differently.
Of course, because you know everything
you
what's
have
happening.
The background,
yeah,
right?
have the background. Yeah.
So you know when they're pushing something that is not realistic, or vice versa, right?
Because I know what happens on...
Exactly. I know the reality. I've dealt with it in the past.
Wow. The perfect background to become a procurement.
It's helped a lot, for sure.
Okay. Yeah, we have passed 1 hour of interview. That's so cool and crazy because... And I have 2 questions more.
Sure.
2 more questions, sorry. What else for Hayley? What else? What else do you want for your career and for your personal life?
It's a good question. For me, I don't really have a set plan. I mean, I never thought I'd end up in Panama, right? So
now you are almost 10 years here.
Exactly. So for me, it's about enjoying what I do. So as long as I enjoy what I do, then I will continue. As long as I'm still learning something new, then I continue. And then wherever that takes me, I'm free, right? So I'm open to anything from there. So it's as long as I'm enjoying life, as long as I'm having fun, as long as I'm working with people that I enjoy working with, for me, that makes me happy. And the door will open to the next opportunity when the door is ready to open.
You're going to be ready. Wow. That's so cool. That's so cool. Wow. The last question, as usual, I want to ask you an advice for the ones who want to maybe to start in with shipping or whatever.
Yes.
An advice from you, who are a leader for a big shipping company in the world, and of course, an example of professional. I wanna know which advice would you give to our subscribers and the people who are listening to us and watching us.
I think my advice would be to be open to change and keep your mind open to looking for different solutions. So the world we work in shipping is very dynamic. Problems happen all the time. Issues happen all the time. And there's no set way to fix everything, right? And I think one thing also in life, right, is to be open to different ways of trying different things, solve problems in different ways. And also the corporate world in general changes quite a lot, right? It's a very dynamic industry in general, right? So being open to change and new ways of working, new opportunities, and yes.
Wow. We have everything. I would like to thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much for having me.
That was so cool. I was a bit nervous in the beginning of the interview, but wow, that was so cool. More than 1 hour of interview.
Super
And
good. Thank you for having
Hayley.
me on.
Thank you very much for your time. Well, we have done. We finished it. I would like to ask you, our subscribers, not subscribers, the ones who are watching the interview, to subscribe and click on the bell for the notifications and follow DannyCast. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and have a good day. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.